Welcome back, everyone, to Restly, where we settle into the science of deep rest and the extraordinary mechanics of the natural world. Today, we turn our attention from the sleep of the cosmos to the incredible journeys of the smallest yet most tenacious travelers on our Earth: migrating birds. The question is not simply why birds migrate, but how they achieve such stunning accuracy year after year across thousands of kilometers. How do birds know the exact way back after a long migration, often returning to the very same nest site or feeder they left 6 or 8 months prior? The phenomenon of avian migration is one of the greatest enduring spectacles of the natural world. Imagine a small bird, perhaps a warbler weighing no more than 3 pennies, launching itself from the boreal forests of Canada and flying non-stop across the vastness of the Atlantic Ocean or the Gulf of Mexico to wintering grounds in Central or South America. Even more astonishing is the fact that when spring returns, that same bird will find its way back, often pinpointing the exact square meter of forest where it hatched or nested the previous year. This is an act of navigation that far surpasses the capabilities of any human navigator without the aid of sophisticated instruments. The science behind this is an ongoing field of intense research, leading to the discovery of a complex, redundant, and truly astonishing sensory system that operates like a natural built-in global positioning system. This internal system allows the birds to perform 2 crucial navigational tasks: orientation and true navigation. Orientation refers to the ability to maintain a consistent compass direction. When a bird begins its journey, it needs to know, for instance, to fly due southwest. It relies on a suite of environmental cues to determine and hold this heading. These cues can be as obvious as the position of the sun, or as subtle as the invisible lines of the Earth's magnetic field. This is the bird's primary compass, ensuring it travels along the correct trajectory. True navigation, however, is far more complex and is the key to solving the enigma of finding the exact way back. True navigation requires a bird not only to know its desired destination and the direction to fly, its compass, but also to know its current position relative to that destination, its map. If a bird is blown off course by a hurricane across the Atlantic Ocean, it must possess the ability to recognize that it is now 1,000 kilometers east of its correct path and adjust its heading to compensate, aiming west until it returns to the correct migratory flyway. This astonishing map sense is not fully understood, but scientists believe it involves a sophisticated combination of sensory inputs, including the invisible magnetic field, olfactory cues, the sense of smell, and learned memory of large-scale landmarks. The long history of migration is written in the instincts of these creatures. While older, experienced birds may rely heavily on memory and learned routes. Young birds embarking on their very first journey, a solitary, dangerous trip they have never taken, must rely on inherited genetic programming. This innate guidance provides the initial direction and even the approximate duration of flight, allowing them to arrive within the general vicinity of their species' traditional wintering grounds. Upon arrival, they then use local cues to find the most suitable spot. The complexity of this navigational toolkit highlights a fundamental biological principle. No single sense is responsible for the miracle of migration. Rather, the birds possess a redundant system where multiple senses and mechanisms, celestial compasses, geomagnetic senses, olfactory maps, and an accurate internal clock work together seamlessly, providing backup and verification to ensure maximum accuracy and survivability across thousands of kilometers of open sea or featureless desert. The quiet efficiency of this biological system is a testament to the patient power of evolution and the extraordinary ways that life has adapted to master the vast scale of the planet. The primary directional tool for birds, especially when traversing vast, featureless regions like open oceans or deserts, is the celestial compass. This system relies on the sun during the day and the patterns of stars during the night to maintain a consistent heading. This is one of the most ancient and reliable navigational strategies in the animal kingdom, and it demonstrates the bird's astonishing ability to integrate complex astronomical information with their internal biological rhythms. During the day, the sun provides an obvious and highly reliable directional cue. However, using the sun as a compass is not as simple as flying toward it, because the sun moves across the sky throughout the day, rising in the east, peaking at midday in the south in the northern hemisphere, and setting in the west. The bird must continuously compensate for this apparent solar motion. If a bird simply maintained a fixed angular relationship with the sun, it would fly in a large circle. This is where the bird's biological internal clock becomes absolutely crucial. The birds possess a sophisticated internal clock, their circadian rhythm, that is accurate to within minutes. This clock allows the bird to calculate the sun's position at any time of the day and predict where it should be. By coupling the sun's position with its knowledge of the time of day, the bird can determine the cardinal directions and maintain a fixed compass heading. For instance, if the bird needs to fly due south in the northern hemisphere and it is 9 o'clock in the morning, the bird knows the sun is in the east, so it must fly at a precise angle relative to the sun's current position. As the sun moves higher and shifts westward, the bird adjusts its flight angle accordingly, keeping its heading constant. This process, known as time-compensated solar compass orientation, is robust and highly accurate. The system is so sensitive that scientists have demonstrated in controlled laboratory settings that if they artificially shift the bird's perception of time, for example by exposing it to an artificial light cycle that is 6 hours ahead of real time, the bird will miscalculate the sun's position and orient itself incorrectly, typically by an angle corresponding to 6 hours of solar motion. This proves that the time and the sun's position are intrinsically linked within the bird's navigational framework. When the sun sets and the birds take advantage of the calmer air for nocturnal flight, they switch to the stellar compass. This celestial reliance is independent of the time compensation required for the sun. Instead of tracking the movement of a single object, the birds orient themselves using the recognizable patterns of the star constellations. Experiments conducted in planetariums have shown that migratory birds, particularly warblers and indigo buntings, will orient themselves correctly toward their migratory destination when shown a normal night sky. However, if scientists artificially rotate the patterns of the stars, the birds adjust their heading to match the new, incorrect celestial cues. Crucially, studies suggest that birds do not rely on a single star like the North Star, but use the overall rotating pattern of the stars around the pole of rotation to determine north. Young birds learn this pattern during a critical period early in their life, by observing the star movement around the polar area of the sky. This learned pattern of rotation gives them a fixed reference point, a directional anchor that remains constant regardless of the time of the night. These celestial compasses are highly effective, offering the birds a reliable way to maintain a fixed heading during the vast majority of their journey. However, they are not perfect. They fail when the sky is completely overcast or shrouded by fog. This inherent limitation necessitates the use of a backup system, which leads us to arguably the most mysterious and crucial sense in the bird's toolkit: the direct perception of the Earth's magnetic field. This reliance on multiple redundant compasses is what grants the birds their extraordinary accuracy and resilience across the long, migratory routes. While the sun and stars provide excellent compass orientation on clear days and nights, migrating birds also possess a far more subtle and resilient navigational tool: the ability to directly perceive the Earth's invisible magnetic field. This astonishing biological faculty, known as magnetoreception, is often described as the quantum compass, and it grants the birds the ability to maintain a fixed directional heading even when the sky is completely overcast, a crucial backup for long oceanic or nocturnal flights. The mechanism behind this magnetic sense is one of the most exciting and least understood areas of modern biology. Scientists have gathered compelling evidence suggesting that the magnetic compass system is linked to a complex protein called cryptochrome, which is found in specialized cells in the bird's eyes. This is why scientists believe the magnetic sense is light-dependent, meaning the birds may need to see in order to sense the magnetic field. The theory suggests that the cryptochrome molecules within the eye can exist in two states. When a molecule is excited by blue or green light wavelengths, it creates pairs of electrons that are entangled at the quantum level. The Earth's magnetic field, though extremely weak, influences the spin of these entangled electron pairs. Depending on the angle at which the bird faces the magnetic field lines, the number of cryptochrome molecules that switch states changes. The bird's brain then interprets these subtle changes in the chemical reactions as a visual pattern, a kind of field of vision where the magnetic field lines appear as varying shades of light and darkness. This system essentially tells the bird which direction is north and which direction is south. Crucially, the avian magnetic compass does not rely on the polarity of the field, north versus south, in the way a human compass does. Instead, it relies on the inclination of the magnetic field lines, the angle at which the lines dip toward the Earth's surface. Near the equator, the lines are nearly horizontal. Near the magnetic poles, they are almost vertical. The bird's magnetic sense can measure this angle of inclination, telling it whether it is heading toward the equator, where the angle is shallower, or toward the pole, where the angle is steeper. This is why the magnetic compass is described as an inclination compass. Beyond acting as a simple directional compass, the Earth's magnetic field also provides the bird with the makings of a global map. The magnetic field varies subtly in two other important properties across the Earth's surface: intensity, the strength of the field, and declination, the difference between true geographic north and magnetic north. Scientists hypothesize that specialized receptors, possibly tiny magnetite crystals located in the bird's beak or inner ear, can sense these minute changes in intensity and declination. By combining these three pieces of magnetic information, inclination, intensity, and declination, the bird can build a kind of bi-coordinate magnetic map. Since every position on Earth has a unique combination of magnetic intensity and inclination, the bird can effectively know its approximate latitude and longitude. If the bird is displaced hundreds of kilometers off course, its internal magnetic map tells it, the field intensity here is too high and the inclination is too steep. I must be too far north and too far east of my intended route. This ability to know its position relative to its destination is the very definition of true navigation, and it is this magnetic map that allows birds to correct for displacement and find their way back with such extraordinary accuracy. While the Earth's magnetic field provides the crucial global map and a primary compass for long-distance correction, a migrating bird requires additional, highly specific cues to perform the second half of true navigation, the ability to recognize and pinpoint its final destination. This relies heavily on the bird's internal cognitive mapping system, which integrates learned memory of the terrain and, surprisingly, the sense of smell, or olfaction. The role of olfaction in avian navigation has only recently been fully appreciated, and it offers an intriguing layer to the bird's internal map. Studies on homing pigeons and certain migratory birds suggest that they can use regional odors carried on the wind to determine their location. Think of the atmosphere as carrying an invisible, complex tapestry of smells originating from different environments. The distinct scent of a large pine forest region, the characteristic odor near the ocean, or the smell of urban pollution in a particular latitude. Scientists hypothesize that as a bird matures and travels its route in its first few years, it learns to associate these large-scale odor gradients with specific geographic locations. This creates a kind of olfactory map, which acts as a grid or a coarse overlay on top of the finer magnetic map. For instance, a bird may use the magnetic field to know it is at a certain latitude, but the olfactory cue of a coastal marsh system confirms it is at the eastern edge of the continent, providing essential localized context. Studies where the olfactory nerves of migratory birds or homing pigeons were temporarily impaired showed that they struggled significantly to orient themselves and were unable to compensate for being displaced off their usual route, suggesting the sense of smell is critical for this map-like positioning system. In addition to smell, the bird's ability to store and recall vast amounts of visual information forms the foundation of its most reliable local map: terrain memory. Experienced adult birds rely heavily on memory of large, visible landmarks to guide them once they are close to their familiar route. This learned map includes recognizable features such as mountain ranges, the course of major rivers, the coastline of continents, and the shape of large lakes or bays. Birds often use the topography of the land as natural funnels or guiding lines. A mountain range, for example, is not just a landmark, but a barrier that dictates the most efficient flight path. Birds may learn to fly around a certain side of a mountain or follow a valley pass that leads directly to their next known waypoint. The vast, winding course of a major river can serve as an invaluable linear cue, helping the bird to maintain its heading and confirming its progress along the expected route. This visual, cognitive map is learned and refined over time. Young birds often travel with older, experienced individuals or follow general compass instructions, but each successful journey adds detail to their personal map. The more migratory journeys a bird completes, the better and more detailed its terrain memory becomes, which is why older birds are generally more successful at finding their exact way back than first-time migrants. As the bird approaches its final destination, the terrain memory becomes extremely fine-grained. The large river gives way to a smaller, recognizable tributary. That tributary leads to a familiar woodlot, and finally, the bird recognizes the shape of the specific clump of trees or the structure of a particular building that marks its chosen nesting site. This transition from a global magnetic map to a local, visual, and olfactory map is the final act of true navigation, transforming an accurate long-distance heading into an incredibly precise pinpoint landing. The seamless integration of scent, sight, and memory is what completes the bird's full internal navigational picture. The remarkable accuracy of bird navigation relies not only on external cues like the sun and the Earth's magnetic field, but also on an impeccably timed internal clock. This biological timer, known as the circadian rhythm, is far more than a simple schedule keeper. It is an indispensable component of the bird's entire navigational toolkit, essential for both directional orientation and the crucial timing of the journey itself. The primary function of the internal clock in navigation is its role in time-compensated solar compass orientation, as discussed previously. To correctly use the sun as a compass, the bird must be able to calculate the sun's position at any given time of the day. Since the sun appears to move through the sky at a rate of 15 degrees every hour, the bird needs an accurate time reference to compensate for this movement. The internal clock provides this reference, essentially allowing the bird to run the necessary calculations to maintain a fixed heading throughout the day as the sun's position changes. The accuracy of this clock is staggering. Experiments involving shifting the bird's perceived time by exposing them to altered light cycles clearly demonstrate its importance. If a bird is tricked into thinking it is noon when it is actually 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it will calculate the sun's position incorrectly and will fly at an error angle that corresponds precisely to the 3-hour time difference. This confirms that the internal sense of time is not just an ancillary aid, but a central, non-negotiable component of its solar compass system. Beyond its role as a navigational tool for orientation, the internal clock is also vital for managing the logistics of the entire migratory journey. Birds do not fly continuously. They engage in a pattern of flight and rest periods. The circadian rhythm helps regulate the precise timing of these flight bouts, ensuring maximum efficiency. Many small songbirds, for example, are nocturnal migrants, meaning they primarily fly during the night when the air is cooler and calmer, and predators like falcons are less active. The internal clock triggers the onset of flight shortly after sunset and terminates it precisely before sunrise, ensuring they stop to rest and refuel during the day. The circadian rhythm also governs the physiological state of the bird during the migratory season, a state known as Zugunruhe, which translates literally from German as migratory restlessness. This is a period of heightened activity and metabolic changes that signal to the bird that it is time to migrate. The internal biological clock often influenced by external cues like changes in daylight length, photoperiod, initiates this restlessness, triggering the accumulation of vast reserves of fat, the high-energy fuel needed for long, arduous flights, and preparing the complex navigational apparatus for deployment. Furthermore, scientists believe the internal clock plays a key role in measuring the duration of the journey itself, particularly for young birds on their first unassisted flight. Genetic programming may encode not only the direction, southwest for example, but also the time the bird needs to fly in that direction. The internal clock essentially measures the hours and days of flight, allowing the bird to stop when the inherited time or distance target is reached. While experienced birds may adjust this schedule based on terrain and fuel availability, the innate time measurement provides the essential guidance for the novice traveler. In essence, the internal clock ties the bird to the rhythms of the planet. It synchronizes the bird's physiology with the changing seasons, ensures its celestial compass remains accurate, dictates the timing of its flight and rest periods, and even helps measure the distance of its thousands of kilometers journey. The integration of this highly accurate timer with the external cues of the sun, stars, and magnetic field is what elevates the bird's navigational system from a collection of senses to a single, seamless, and almost infallibly accurate global positioning system. The mystery of how a bird finds its way back is often overshadowed by an even more fundamental question. How does a young bird, a first-time migrant, find its migratory destination when it has never been there before and has no memory of the route? The answer lies in the profound role of genetics and innate programming, which encode the initial route and navigational instructions directly into the bird's brain and physiology. For many species of long-distance migrants, especially those that winter far from their breeding grounds and do not migrate in tight family groups, the first journey is solitary and entirely unassisted. In these cases, the young bird cannot learn the route from its parents. Instead, its initial migratory route is controlled by two inherited genetic parameters: direction and duration. The first parameter, direction, is the fixed compass heading the bird must follow. For instance, the genes might instruct the bird to fly southwest after leaving the nest. This innate directional information activates the bird's complex navigational toolkit, compelling it to align its flight path using its magnetic compass or stellar compass toward that precise heading. Scientists have demonstrated this genetic instruction in experiments by raising migratory birds in isolation. When released, the birds instinctively orient themselves toward the correct migratory direction, even without any exposure to older, experienced migrants. The second parameter, duration, is the genetically encoded time the bird needs to fly along that fixed direction. The bird's internal clock essentially acts as a measuring tape, tracking the days and nights of flight. For example, the genes might instruct a bird to fly southwest for 60 days, allowing it to cover the required migratory distance that terminates in its species' traditional wintering grounds. When the internal clock registers that the necessary time has passed, the migratory impulse, the Zuggenruhe, subsides, and the bird begins seeking suitable habitat in the general vicinity where it landed. This two-part genetic program is highly effective for getting a bird from its north temperate breeding grounds to the correct subtropical or tropical region. However, it is an open-loop system, meaning it is rigid and cannot compensate for being blown far off route by storms. It guides the bird along the correct average path, but only gets the bird to the general vicinity of the destination. Once the young bird arrives in the correct general region, its navigational strategy switches to a closed-loop system where learning and memory take over. During its first winter and its subsequent return journey, the bird begins to build its sophisticated map based on the Earth's magnetic field and learned visual and olfactory cues. The first journey may only take the bird to the correct country or state, but by the time it makes its second or third return journey, it has integrated the more complex magnetic map and terrain memory to achieve the astonishing accuracy of finding the exact nest or feeder location. The interaction between genetics and learning is crucial for understanding avian navigation. The genetics provide the initial compass and the long-distance framework, ensuring the survival of the first journey. The learning then provides the fine-tuning, the compensatory ability, true navigation, and the precise location of the final destination. This interplay allows the species to maintain the integrity of its traditional migratory routes, while also allowing individual birds to adapt and improve their accuracy over their lifetimes, demonstrating the profound elegance of evolutionary programming. The bird's impressive navigational ability is not restricted to its internal clocks and biological senses. It also relies heavily on external environmental cues that act as supplemental aids, providing essential information about wind, weather, and the geography of the route. These cues, often subtle, are integrated into the bird's overall navigational and logistical decision-making framework, helping to optimize flight efficiency and verify directional heading. One of the most immediate and critical environmental cues is wind. Migrating birds are highly attuned to wind direction and speed, as these factors dramatically affect the energy expenditure and speed of their journey. Birds will instinctively seek to fly with a tailwind to reduce the cost of flight and increase their speed over ground. Conversely, they will avoid strong headwinds or crosswinds that could push them too far off course or deplete their energy reserves too quickly. Scientists studying radar data of mass migrations have observed that birds often delay departure for days, waiting patiently for a favorable tailwind to commence their journey, demonstrating that wind is a major logistical determinant of flight. Beyond simple speed and efficiency, the wind can also provide directional information. The wind carries olfactory cues, the smells we discussed earlier, that help the bird position itself on its map. If a bird detects the smell of a coastal environment being carried by a wind blowing from the east, it confirms to the bird that it is currently west of the coastline, providing a valuable positional fix within its larger internal map. Weather patterns are another important set of cues. Migratory birds are skilled at reading changes in barometric pressure and temperature that signal approaching storms or frontal systems. Since migratory flight, especially high-altitude flight, can be perilous in severe weather, the birds will adjust their flight altitude or make necessary stops to avoid dangerous conditions. A sudden drop in barometric pressure, for example, is a strong predictor of an imminent storm, prompting the bird to land and seek shelter. This acute sensitivity to weather is crucial for survivability during long journeys that span multiple climate zones. A more unexpected environmental cue that contributes to the bird's navigational ability is infrasound. Infrasound consists of extremely low-frequency sound waves below the range of human hearing that can travel thousands of kilometers without significant degradation. These sound waves are generated by natural phenomena such as ocean waves, wind passing over mountain ranges, and even certain atmospheric disturbances. Scientists hypothesize that birds are capable of detecting these subtle infrasound signals. Mountain ranges or coastlines, for instance, generate unique infrasound signatures. The bird may be able to hear the rumble of a distant mountain range or ocean far before it can see it. By triangulating or simply following the direction of these infrasound cues, the birds gain an additional layer of navigational certainty, confirming their approach to major geographic features even in low visibility conditions or at night. This ability to track infrasound acts as a reliable, long-range navigational beacon. In summary, the environmental cues are the practical, real-time information streams that the bird uses to ensure the safety and efficiency of its journey. The wind optimizes speed and reduces energy expenditure. Weather cues ensure survivability, and infrasound helps track large, distant landmarks. All of these external signals are seamlessly integrated with the internal magnetic compass and solar compass, creating a multi-layered navigational strategy that allows the bird to master the geographical and atmospheric challenges of its thousands of kilometers journey. After relying on global magnetic maps, stellar compasses, and long-range olfactory cues to cross continents and oceans, the migrating bird faces the final and perhaps most astonishing navigational challenge: pinpointing home. The ability to switch from navigating across thousands of kilometers to locating a single specific nest or feeder location requires the bird to abandon its global compass systems and rely entirely on a different set of highly precise, localized cues. This switch from a broad orientation mechanism to a fine-grained homing mechanism is the culmination of the entire migratory journey. As the bird approaches the familiar territory of its breeding ground or wintering site, its memory and sensory acuity sharpen dramatically. The magnetic map and solar compass have done their job by getting the bird within the correct 100 kilometers radius. Now, the specific visual, olfactory, and even auditory memory must take over. The most critical factor in this final approach is fine-grained visual memory. An adult bird returning to its home territory has a remarkably detailed cognitive map of the local landscape. This is not the memory of a mountain range, but the memory of the shape of a specific woodlot, the exact curvature of a river bend, the location of a single dead tree that served as a favored perch, or the outline of a nearby building. This visual memory is often confirmed by comparing what the bird sees in real time to the vast archive of visual information stored in its brain from previous seasons. Olfactory cues also play a very local and important role here. While broad odor gradients help the bird navigate continents, the smell of a specific local environment, the distinctive scent of a familiar patch of marsh, a particular species of pine tree that dominates the local forest, or the earthy smell of its nest material helps confirm the bird's precise location. Scientists believe that these fine-tuned local scents act as high-resolution anchors in the final approach, eliminating any remaining positional uncertainty. Furthermore, auditory cues become surprisingly important in the last kilometers. Birds have excellent hearing and can recognize the sound signatures of their home area. This might include the characteristic sound of a nearby river or waterfall, the noise from a familiar highway at a certain time of day, or even the call of a rival bird that held territory the previous year. These auditory landmarks are often less affected by weather and can penetrate forest canopy, making them valuable confirmatory cues as the bird descends. The ability to pinpoint home is a testament to the long-term memory of the bird. This extreme sight fidelity, the tendency to return to the exact same location, provides crucial evolutionary advantages. Returning to a known nest site means less time and energy are wasted searching for a new place, and it often leads to better breeding success due to familiarity with local resources and predators. This fidelity strengthens the bird's memory each year, making the next return journey even more accurate. In the final moments of flight, the bird integrates all of these local cues, the minute visual details, the specific local scents, and the identifiable sounds, to perform the navigational equivalent of threading a needle. The vast, invisible magnetic map and the celestial compass are silent now. The bird is operating solely on the power of memory and highly refined senses. This precise pinpointing of home is the magnificent conclusion to the long, arduous migratory voyage, a final, perfect act of true navigation. The incredible navigational accuracy of migrating birds would be biologically useless without the equally astonishing physiological capacity to complete the thousands of kilometers journey. The energetics of migration, the ability to acquire fuel, manage mass, and, crucially, cope with the intense demands of continuous flight and the loss of sleep are fundamental to the entire process. Migration is perhaps the greatest endurance feat in the animal kingdom, requiring the bird to fly for days or even weeks with minimal rest. The immense energy required for this sustained flight is primarily derived from fat. Before migration begins, birds enter a period of hyperphagia, excessive eating, where they rapidly accumulate vast reserves of fat, sometimes doubling their total body mass. This fat is the ideal fuel for flight because it is lightweight and yields a huge amount of energy, more than twice the energy per unit of mass compared to carbohydrates or protein. These fat reserves are metabolized during flight through a process called aerobic respiration, fueling the continuous movement of the flight muscles. The amount of fat a bird can carry directly dictates the distance it can fly nonstop. For example, a small songbird preparing for a long ocean crossing must carry enough fuel to cover 2,000 or 3,000 kilometers without landing, meaning its pre-migratory fat load must be enormous. The successful completion of the journey depends entirely on the bird's ability to calculate its fuel needs and carry that calculated mass. The management of sleep and rest during these long, non-stop flights presents a unique physiological challenge. A bird cannot simply stop and sleep when flying across the open ocean. Scientists have observed several fascinating adaptations to cope with the lack of traditional sleep. First, migratory birds often engage in periods of unihemispheric slow-wave sleep while in flight. This is a state where one half of the bird's brain remains awake and alert, keeping the bird flying, monitoring the environment for predators, and maintaining directional heading, while the other half of the brain enters a sleep state. The bird can alternate which side of the brain is resting, allowing it to technically sleep while remaining in flight. This ability is thought to be widespread among species undertaking long, sustained flights. Second, during necessary stopovers, the periods when the birds land to refuel, they demonstrate a phenomenon known as sleep rebound. During these rest periods, migratory birds can significantly reduce the time needed to enter deep, restorative sleep and increase the proportion of slow-wave sleep they obtain, essentially optimizing their limited rest time to quickly recover from the accumulated sleep debt of flight. The precise timing of when to stop, where to stop, and how long to rest is governed by the bird's innate understanding of its fuel level and its internal sense of the time remaining in its journey. The bird must find a delicate balance. Stopping too long delays the arrival time to the breeding ground, which can reduce mating success, but stopping too briefly can leave it dangerously underfueled for the next leg of the journey. Ultimately, the energetics and sleep management of migration underscore the profound connection between the bird's navigational brilliance and its physical resilience. The best map and compass are meaningless without the fat reserves and the neurological capacity to sustain flight and maintain alertness across thousands of kilometers. The bird is a finely tuned machine where the metabolic requirements and the navigational precision are perfectly integrated to achieve the miracle of the long return. We have journeyed through the intricate mechanisms that allow migrating birds to achieve their astonishing accuracy, from the billion-star canvas above to the invisible magnetic lines woven into the fabric of our planet. The answer to the question, how do birds know the exact way back after a long migration, is not a single sense, but a magnificent synthesis of multiple redundant sensory inputs that form an integrated fail-safe navigational toolkit. The bird's entire system can be conceptualized as a tiered hierarchy of compasses and maps that are cross-referenced constantly for verification and correction. At the highest level of orientation is the celestial compass, which includes the sun and the stars. These are reliable primary directional cues, but they require the exquisite timing of the bird's internal clock to compensate for the Earth's rotation and the sun's movement. This system allows the bird to maintain a fixed, long-distance heading when the sky is clear. Serving as the crucial all-weather backup and the foundation of the global map is magnetoreception, the quantum compass. By sensing the inclination of the Earth's magnetic field lines, the bird determines its approximate latitude and direction relative to the magnetic poles. More importantly, by combining inclination with intensity and declination, the bird creates a bi-coordinate map that informs it of its current position relative to its destination. This is the mechanism that allows for true navigation, enabling the bird to correct for being displaced thousands of kilometers off route. These global systems are augmented by environmental cues, which serve as logistical validators and immediate danger signals. Birds read wind and weather patterns to optimize flight efficiency and survivability, while infrasound and olfactory cues provide long-range confirmation of the approach to major geographic features such as coastlines or mountain ranges. As the bird approaches the final destination, the reliance switches to the learned high-resolution map system, terrain memory, and local olfaction. Experienced birds use their profound memory of rivers, lakes, and topography to funnel themselves toward the correct local area. In the last kilometers, specific sights, smells, and sounds associated with their nest site allow them to perform the final, precise, pinpoint landing. This integration is made possible by a remarkable genetic endowment that provides the initial direction and duration for the first journey, and a physiological framework that includes the energy reserves, the unihemispheric slow-wave sleep capacity, and the accurate internal clock necessary to sustain the long and arduous flight. The bird is constantly cross-checking every available cue. Is the magnetic field intensity correct for this latitude? Is the sun angle confirming the heading? Does the smell match the expected location on the internal map? This constant verification is what eliminates error and ensures the stunning accuracy of the annual return. The migrating bird is thus a master navigator, using the entire planet as its navigational tool, its eyes reading the stars, its brain calculating time, and its beak potentially sensing the Earth's invisible heartbeat. This quiet, resilient precision is one of the most beautiful illustrations of the deep synergy between life and the forces of the planet. The bird's journey is a powerful testament to evolution's patient power, demonstrating a navigational prowess we can only hope to mimic with our most sophisticated technology. If you found this quiet journey into the science of avian navigation compelling, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the Restley channel for more insights into the science of the natural world and the science of scientist sleep. Sweet dreams.